Today I'm going to tell you the story about the time that my friend Tyson was taken away by a dinosaur.
Arriving at Retrospect. Retrospect Station. Doors will open on the left.
Welcome back, passengers, to Retrospect Station, the show where I show you just how colorful life can be. I'm your host, Elizabeth Dean, and ladies, gentlemen, and pastries of all other flavors. You've heard of Schrödinger's cat, right? But have you heard of Schrödinger's dinosaur? So this is the very first story I ever wanted to tell. 10 years ago, when I wanted my own show, I thought I would call the show 10-Minute Things to Talk About. I believe I might have mentioned that in the first episode of Retrospect Station, but if not, now you know. And the first idea for an episode I had was to tell this story. So how do I even begin with this? Oh, as a disclaimer as well, for people who are watching the video version of this and actually watching the video, you know who you are. Don't expect me to look up, because unlike most episodes that I do where I just kind of wing it as I go, I have notes, if you can see it on the camera. Notes. Pages and pages and pages. This was an episode I planned. Like, I sat down and planned it out. So I'm going to tell you, in no uncertain terms, about that one time my friend Tyson, my high school friend Tyson, got abducted by a dinosaur. We all know Minecraft, right? We all know the game Minecraft. Big open world, block building, fiesta kind of video game. It's got too much content on the internet now, and I'm not about to add to that right now. But I do have a story for you. When I first wrote this down, I called it Our Dinosaur Destroyed Minecraft. That does not begin to sum up exactly what was done. So I have no idea what order I have this in my notebook, but how do I begin? Is it backstory? Is it backstory time? Is it lore? So he and I used to play video games together as a duo for almost everything. And one of those games in grade 12 was Minecraft. Now, regular Minecraft at the time was a little bit boring in comparison, just because, I mean, there were not nearly as many of the updates and creatures as there are now in base game Minecraft. So a lot of features that are in the game now were actually mods and started out as mods a long time ago. One mod that I don't know if it ever made it in. I haven't touched that game in at least 4 years. Not a flex or anything. I miss it. I just haven't done anything about it yet. We were playing on a server. And the mods we had installed, among many, were Attack of the B Team and the Necromancy mod, a bunch of other, like, shapeshifty kind of mods, so you could take the form of different creatures, mobs in the game that you killed, including the ability to fly. So if you killed a bat, you could turn into a bat and fly. If you killed a ghast, you could turn into a ghast and fly. And so this was a server we hopped. He brought me into this. It was him, a couple of our friends, and the way I play Minecraft, I've never finished the game, and I hate playing on survival mode, if only for the fact that I don't play video games to be stressed. But when I play Minecraft on survival mode, I am stressed. I don't like having to look for monsters at every single turn wherever I look. So usually when I get into Minecraft, I just play the game, build a house, make a farm, and then I'm like, why do I have to go anywhere? Why do I have to kill anything? I just need to make the safest house so that nothing can get indoors. And then I cook food and I'm happy. So when I would get into games with Tyson, I would become the homemaker and he would become the provider, as we called it. Completely platonic. I'm just saying that up front right now. I realize the terms that I'm using are very like marriage based. This is like, I was homemaker, our other friend was homemaker, and then he and friend number, Dos? Tyson friend 1 and friend 2. The other friend of his, they were the go outside, kill stuff kind of provider, where they would go hunt a bunch of stuff, come back and be like, here's a diamond sword, goodbye. Here's another pickaxe, goodbye. I found these, do something with it, goodbye. And they would never be home. So we played the game like that. Most of the time when we played, he and I were kind of like late night owly type people, but not too late. So we would play at a certain time period, and then at other times, our 2 other friends would come on and play, and we rarely overlapped, and we started building this base. I was apparently completely responsible for building the house itself. Other homemaker guy was kind of responsible. He was planting an orchard and decorating stuff outdoors. And then Tyson and the other friend would go around and hunt a bunch of stuff, make friends with the server admins, all of that. I give you this lore so that you understand what was lost in the incident. So one of the mods we had, I think it was part of the Attack on the B Team set of mods. If not, it was just part of the mod package that was in this server. Allowed you to have dinosaurs, and there to be dinosaurs spawning in the world, dinosaur eggs that were discoverable in the world. You could just dig in the sand and you might find some dinosaur eggs or something like that. And so we were starting a collection. So I built this beautiful homesteady ranch looking thing. And then like one side of the windows, one side of the house, the wall was like almost entirely windows past a certain height. And I had like an indoor garden, veranda. And that's not what a veranda is. An indoor garden, courtyard kind of thing. And then outdoors, I had a big farm. And next to the big farm, we put a bunch of fences. We dug a pool. And that was where we were keeping animals. So Tyson would go out. It was mainly only Tyson who would go out and acquire dinosaurs and bring them back. I nearly do not remember half the dinosaurs he brought back. I remember at one point he brought a stegosaurus back. And we put it in a pretty large pen and we let it run around. We had a triceratops, I think. Something like that. We had a couple of the major few dinos. I don't know if we found a T-Rex. I don't know if a T-Rex was in that mod. But there was one infamous dinosaur I'll get to. You could not treat it without respect. Not because it was going to bite you, but it could hurt you in a very specific way. So we built this whole base. Below the ground, Tyson had put in this big basement-y dungeon, as he called it. It was his dungeon. So you go downstairs and there'd be like a bunch of stuff happening, some furnaces, some normal Minecraft stuff. And then you go down another level, I think with an elevator, I don't know what he had going on. And then you go down the stairs and suddenly there's nether flooring and there's nether brick stairs. And then you come down and it's just walls lined with cages, and he has creations inside of them. So this is the necromancy mod, where I to this day do not know how it works, but you do a bunch of different research and you can basically cobble together creatures, Frankenstyle. You could put a squid head on top of a villager or something like that, but give him horse legs. I don't know. You could do some really weird stuff. And he did research. Apparently you can make a mini you, and we named him Alan, and he was our little homunculus son. and we put him in a cage and we gave him a name tag that said Alan. I'm just giving you context so you know what was lost. It was this beautiful, slightly decrepit, if you went below the earth, homestead. Lovely trees, orchards. Everything was perfect. Now, I have my book in hand. Let's go through it. There was a particular dinosaur. And the dinosaur was called a Plesiosaur. Now, you could look up a picture of a Plesiosaur online, just what they looked like. You'll find it's an aquatic dinosaur, meaning it has to swim in a pond. So, naturally, we dug a pond, mainly because we wanted squids, but eventually because Tyson was like, I want a Plesiosaur. Apparently, it was a little bit rare. So, we dug a pond, and one day, he came back screaming with joy. I did it. I found one. And he puts it in the pond in the backyard, and I come back out, and I see that there is a Plesiosaur. Little mini Plesiosaur sitting in the pond, and he's like, he's going to grow. We were so excited about him. Oh, sorry, I forgot one more context piece. I don't know, I don't think this is part of regular Minecraft, but in this modded version, you could mount different mobs, creatures, and ride them. By default, you can ride horses with a saddle. I believe you can ride a pig with a saddle too. But this mod also let you ride the dinosaurs with saddles, and you could ride a cow with a saddle, and there were a sheep. There was a mod where you could ride almost any mob with a saddle if you just had it in your hand equipped, and you went up to, let's say, a sheep, and you just right clicked it and you put a saddle on it, and then you just right click it again, and now you're sat on the sheep and you can ride him around. This was part of it. So we did put saddles on our, what was it, Bronchiosaurus, Stegosaurus, whatever, and Triceratops, and we were able to ride them around. It was quite fun. But there was something off about the Plesiosaur. See, when I got into this server, for the first time ever, he very distinctively said something to me. He said, now, there's no rules. You can do whatever you want. But there's something you must know. And absolutely, under no circumstances are you to saddle and ride the Plesiosaur. I said, why? He said, apparently it breaks the game. It's a known bug. It's listed on the Attack of the B Team wiki page. There's no known fix yet. So, I'm going to do something I don't normally do with my show, and I'm going to read you my notes point blank. In the mid-2010s, a Minecraft dinosaur mod compatible with the Attack on the Beat Team mod had a game and character-breaking bug which occurred if a player attempted to place a saddle on and mount a Plesiosaur. The bug was often permanently effective and required a player or chunk to reset. The bug has since been fixed. Tyson, my high school friend, had a ranch with me with a pond out back in a server that ran the Attack of the B-Team mod, the Dinosaur mod, and some other mods, including the Shapeshifting mod and the Necromancy mod. The server was run by other people who lived in varying time zones. This is really key. They lived in varying time zones, but were rarely online until the equivalent of late in the night for us. The story. I'm telling you the good part up front. Tyson rode the Plesiosaur. This was that experience, and I dubbed it Schrödinger's Plesiosaur and or Schrödinger's Dinosaur. You'll see why in a sec. Minding our own business on the glorious ranch we had built, I was watering the crops, gathering, planting. Tyson was flying around as a bat, or at times a ghast. He had frightened me at one point, being this ghast. He happened to have a saddle in hand one day, from when we had been taming and riding pigs and other mobs. If only we could have ridden the villagers. That would have been kind of fun. He was attending to the Plesiosaur, feeding it or something. I don't know. And I had built this beautiful glass-bordered 2-story house with him. One of the things that was required in order for a plesiosaur to grow was that you had to feed it by hand. Thus, I think that was exactly what he was doing. I go inside, marvel at the torch, lighting, indoor garden, and indoor trees. Beautiful green space. We're laughing and giggling about something in TeamSpeak. Yes, TeamSpeak. That was pre-Discord. Yes, we played these games pre-Discord. When all of a sudden I hear him stop mid-sentence and go, "Oh wait, no." No. And then the chunk crashes and boots us from the server into the main menu for Minecraft. I ask him what happened, and he says, Uh-oh. So, I did the one thing we're not supposed to do. The what? What did you do? And then I remember the one thing we're not supposed to do. And I ask him, why would you do that? He goes, oopsies. It was an accident. At this point, I've affirmed that the server was still live and we hadn't broken absolutely everything, so I rejoined. He was asking me if he happened to crash the entire server. And I said no, and he said, that's good, and now we're worried that we corrupted the chunk and that nothing remains of the ranch. We had no idea what this bug actually did. We'd never seen it in progress before. But I get in, and he's trying to load in. Well, I get about a 20-second view of the ranch inside, walk out, the side doors go around the back and get dumped into the title screen right again as I hear, all right, I'm in. And I say, I'm out. And he goes, oh. And then he says, oh, I am too. I go, oh, Lord. He says, I think we broke the chunk. And I said, no, we can't lose the farm. And he says, I think we lose the farm. I'm like, okay, I'm loading back in. He goes, okay, me too. And we load back up, and I see the ranch for maybe 10 seconds before I'm booted again. He is immediately booted at the same time. He says, I think that chunk doesn't exist anymore. And I go, but I can see the ranch. And he goes, no, but you can see the ranch? And I go, yeah. He's like, what do you see? And I tell him, well, I can see the farmhouse, the actual building, the farm. Like, I loaded into the farm, my guy. And he goes, like, the farm is there? Okay, wait, maybe you load in alone. And I go, okay. So I load in by myself. Let me tell you, it is a beautiful farm. So many crops, such variety, so beautiful. It's a basement with all the necromanced freaky little creatures and Alan, our freaky little son. All of these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful things. I go around the back, out to the pond, expecting a broken chunk piece, corruption, something. No. Instead, it's just an empty pond. And I'm back to the main menu as he says, I'm gonna try again now. Did you get in? Oh, I'm just immediately back out. It didn't let me in. I tell him, okay, it was fine for a bit. The farm is there. But when I came near the pond, it booted me. And he goes, no, that was me. I booted us. And I say, what? And he goes, I tried loading in, and I think me loading in crashes you if you can see me? Maybe? I said, we can try. I can hide. Up until this point, we thought that if I could visually see whatever the hell was going on with his character and this dinosaur, I would be booted out of the server. We figured like it was an unobservable, chaotic event that could not be witnessed. So I ran around the back of the house to hide. And I'm like, I'm just going to stare at the ground. I'm not going to look at you. I'm going to hide. So he tries to load in and he says, okay, I'm going to madly press shift to dismount when I get in to see if I can get off the dinosaur. And I'm at the back of the house, opaque back of the house, no line of sight. And I'm like, I'm in position. I'm even facing away. And he goes, okay, I'm loading in. There was like a longish pause. And then I hear furious key mashing. And I am, of course, sent back to the title screen. And he says, I don't know if that did anything. I feel like it didn't do anything. I said, I crashed out again. He goes, oh, what the heck? I said, maybe it's just you. Like when you load in, you crash the chunk because you rode the Plesiosaur. So he laughs and agrees. And I say, okay, No, sorry. He says, okay, maybe you load in. See if you can load in and then maybe deal with the Plesiosaur. I go, okay. So I'm loading back in and he's waiting. Get in, breathe, check the ranch, and then creep over to the pond. He asks, are you in? I go, yeah. He says, okay. See if you can remove the saddle from the Plesiosaur. Don't do it with an empty hand or you will ride it too. Like, just smack it, or if you can, just kill it. I'll get another one. It's not easy, but like take a sword out. Just like whack the Plesiosaur. I don't know, maybe the server mods will give me one again. They're chill. I get to the empty pond. I say, what do I do? It says, just put a non-food item in your hand, like a table or something, and I don't know, maybe hit it. Hit what? The Plesiosaur. There is none. He goes, what? I say, Dino gone. Did you put it somewhere else? And he says, it's in the pond. Go to the pond. I'm like, it's not in the pond. And he goes, oh no. He sounds so deeply concerned, way more than he did before. And he goes, it happened. Attention all passengers. We interrupt this story to give you a special announcement. Literacy is at an all-time low these days for reasons mainly outside of our control, and so I thought what better way to help out than with a word of the week. This week's word is veranda, and it is spelled V-E-R-A-N-D-A. It's a short word, but I can never get right what the definition is, so I'm doing this for me. Merriam-Webster defines a veranda as a usually roofed, open gallery attached to the exterior of a building. One of these days I'll remember that's what a veranda is. And an example sentence, no activism this week, is I can never remember what a veranda is because I don't think I've ever seen one. Veranda. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. I'm like, it's not in the pond. And he goes, oh no. He sounds so deeply concerned, way more than he did before. And he goes, it happened. And I say, what happened? And he said, let's just say I've read some of the bug notes for the Dino mod, and I think I might be screwed. And I said, like, is it just you break the game now? And he goes, yeah. Like, unless you reset the character, if you rode the Plesiosaur, you're just bugged out forever. Okay. Maybe you can stand right at the edge of the pond. So he gives me instructions on how to stand near where he rode the dinosaur, and he's like, set yourself up this way. And he says, okay, I'm going to load in, and you smack me right as I load in. Try to kill me or just like get me to dismount. I go, okay. So he starts to load in, and I start frantically, furiously clicking with the diamond sword, hoping to kill one of them very fast. Instead, I am ejected very aggressively from the server again. I said, it booted me again. And he said, how much did you hit us? I go, a lot. He said, okay, so maybe nearly dead? I said, problem is you guys might be invisible. He said, oh wait, you couldn't see us? I said, no. Could you at least see me? He said, I haven't been able to see anything but a loading screen. I said, wait, you don't see any of the ranch? He said, no, that's why I thought it was gone. And I said, oh shoot, you don't exist. He said, essentially, so do I even load in and appear? I said, nope. He goes, ah, damn, I think I'm broken. I'm like, okay, now what? How do you reset your character? He's like, server mods have to reset it, but I can't ask them right now. They're not on right now. Normally they're in TeamSpeak in like the evening or like 9 hours from now. I go, Well, a day happens to pass, and I come home from school and I ask him about it. I hadn't seen him at school for the day. Like, I think briefly I had passed on a joke to him about it. I'd seen some of our other friends who we also play in the ranch. We'd also told them, hey, Tyson might be screwed. His character is just melded with this dinosaur now. We don't know what's happened. So they played on their own during like a lunch break or something, and everything was fine. They had fun in the ranch. And then we came home and got back on. And so I'm talking to him and I ask him, so what's going on? Like, we're coming back online. Can we ask them for help, the server mods? And none of the server mods he needed were on. One server mod was and sympathized with him, but he didn't have access to reset characters and stuff. So Tyson left their TeamSpeak to inform me of all of this, and he was hopeful. He's like, they'll also give us back a dino when they reset the character. Like, they're trusting you with a Plesiosaur again? And he said, they understand me. I don't know if they trusted him. I have a feeling that the reason why this story turns out the way it does is because they didn't trust him. So I loaded in to tend to the farm, to things, whatever. The server's live. It's always on, so it's still going. And he's explaining to me, finally, what had happened. Like, he gives me the rundown of what he did. Now that he wasn't in this weird state of panic, he was, like, reading up on how to undo it. He was texting with the server mods, and he was just kind of telling me. He had a saddle in his hand after taking it off of a pig. He meant to switch over to an empty hand to deal with something near the pond. He turned. He was standing close enough to the Plesiosaur. He moved the scroll wheel to switch to his empty hand and right-clicked. Instead, he slightly lagged. The item didn't switch, so he right-clicked again. Then the lag cleared, but he didn't register the mouse wheel scroll, and that he had saddled up the Plesiosaur, and with full confidence, his character mounted the Plesiosaur. And I said, and that's when you said, oh no. And he goes, exactly. I said, so did you like enter the void? Are you caught in the great void of code? He says, I'm backwards in the void, that's for sure. I go, huh? He says, oh yeah, backwards bucko bronco. I'm watering the crops, assessing the scene of the crime. Thinking to myself, what the hell? Please explain. So he giggles quite a bit. He said, when I rode the Plesiosaur in the split second before the void consumed us, I was sitting on the Plesiosaur, no saddle still in hand, backwards, like me facing its butt end. And then title screen. So, oh my gosh, bareback backwards on the Plesiosaur. Yes. I said, did he like it? He said he must have. He's keeping me locked in the void with him. So before we signed off for the night, he tried once more. No dice. Boots him straight from the loading screen, even with furious pressing shift. A few days later, we're in the local library near our school, and I'm doing some writing, thinking about stuff, browsing the library sections to see what sort of categories of knowledge are out there. And I land on this book in the physics section that talks about Schrödinger's cat and the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Now, I'm a 12th grader, and I'm not strongly cognizant of the inner nuances of quantum physics, so I go up to Tyson and tell him I figured it out. You're Schrödinger's Plesiosaur. The program knows you're riding the dino, but the program also says you're backwards, which implies you can't be riding the Plesiosaur, but you are both riding the Plesiosaur and not riding the Plesiosaur, and so the game deleted both of you into the void to contain you. And he goes, yes, good, contain me. So the moral of the story is we never did get Tyson back in that server, and the magnificence of our ranch was lost to time and demoralization. That often happens anytime something goes wrong with a Minecraft server and people just kind of abandon it. There's all these ghost servers that probably are deleted, but for the ones that aren't and they're just files on someone's computer, I mean, time and effort is just sitting there with nothing. No one. Ghost towns. The server mods gave him the runaround for too long, which is one of the reasons why he didn't get back in. Or they were just like never on or free. Like it never came to pass that they did reset it. They had on text agreed that they would, and they didn't. And I think a big server reset was coming too at some point. And so we were like, well, it's going to wipe everything anyway. And Tyson was like, there's a better server. I can do the mods, blah, 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 blah. So we went into a different place. The Plesiosaur was never once retrieved, although he still tried occasionally to dismount for a couple weeks, and then he moved on to a new mod. Most progress he ever met with was a loading screen to find himself facing forward and then being violently booted again. There was one instance where he did actually see himself forward saddled on the Plesiosaur, but there was only one instance. We had lost a beautiful place. There were trees inside, like a courtyard, a 2.5-story ceiling, a second floor lined with glass windows, an inner creek, stone floors, 14 furnaces, and a once perfect pond outside next to immaculately lined up crops of each kind. Our basement, the different story, a dark secret containing Sin, aka the necromancy mod, and Alan, who had been born from the power of Sin. He was a homunculus Steve, only 3/4 the size of a fully matured Steve. And I miss Alan to this day. He was so well behaved inside of the cage we restrained him in. He was our freaky little son. But the loss of Alan, our freaky little son, et al., was so demoralizing that we just didn't play any more Attack of the B-Team on any server for a while. He found a server with more complicated mods that I wasn't interested in playing, but we did play Minecraft together in the future, so it wasn't bad forever. They did eventually fix the Dinosaur mod. You can now ride the Plesiosaur, and prior to me knowing this, I did threaten to end a server chunk by riding a Plesiosaur I had found. We were in a new server, we were blowing it up anyways. We were like, it was the last of the server, because everyone had kind of finished their own independent quest line that we had assigned ourselves for fun. And so we were going to do like big all-out server war, destroy what you can, beat up who you want, over and over again. I had built this enormous ranch with a huge silo, and I had unbelievable amounts of crops inside of it. And I had planted flowers across every single grass plane that was part of my ranch. I had like these lovely little steps, and I planted tulips and all the different color flowers and everything. I also had an abhorrent amount of chickens stored in my walls. Because Tyson broke into my house at one point when I wasn't there, opened up a hole in my wall and threw in 1,000 chickens and then closed the wall. And so I had a lot of individual items on my ranch. But I had also found a Plesiosaur and I kept it. I kept it in my back pocket. You could carry them around. And when we were doing the server war, I went over to Tyson's area. And I was like, I have the ultimate move. And I placed the Plesiosaur in water, placed a saddle on top of it, and I'm like, I'll do it. I'll freaking ride the Plesiosaur. And then I sat on the Plesiosaur. And nothing happened. So, it was fixed. But on the topic of destroying the server, I won. I built that ranch so spectacularly, so specifically, with so many tiny flowers, enormous trees, a gazillion crops, that when our friend, one of the admins, as part of the server war, lined the bottom of my house with TNT, with a command, and the TNT went off, I rendered the server unusable all by myself in a second. I won. I miss playing Minecraft, and I think I'll get back to it. I mean, I'm in a bit of a process right now, trying to get a workable computer that I can run Minecraft on and record other games. Minecraft is not the goal. And get back to my other thing that I do, which is me being serotonin on YouTube, playing video games. And I miss that. And I would really like to work towards getting a new computer for that because for people who know me, my laptop may or may not have been stolen from me. I don't entirely know. I don't know where it is. I handed it to someone to fix, and they've disappeared off the face of the earth for way too long. So either I'm getting that back, God knows when, or I'm never getting it back. But in the meantime, I mean, take the opportunity. Time for a brand new, spanking new computer that is going to be really hard to afford. But I do want to get back to it. And when I do, I will probably find a way to do some Minecraft stuff too. It'll just be like a compilation of everything I ever wanted to do. I also miss playing games with Tyson. Adulthood kind of takes your time from you, and he's become a lot busier. I've become a lot busier. Life's just kind of changed how I interact with certain friends now. And it's kind of interesting and both sad to see that there's all these little worlds created by us that have been since abandoned. And we're probably never going to touch them again. But this was the first ever story I ever wanted to tell on any talk show I ever hosted ever. And it was, to this day, it's still one of the funniest things that I've ever had happen to me playing video games. I'm a big video game nerd. And it's still one of the funniest things in all the games that I've played. I've played GTA 5. I've done funny things. But this is the funniest thing, I think, to me that's happened in my gaming experience. Is just hearing in the background with no context, no visual context, oh no. And then the whole server boots you out. But this was my story about Schrödinger's Plesiosaur. He was both in the void and not in the void, on the Plesiosaur and not on the Plesiosaur, forwards and backwards. And I'd like to imagine that that's actually what's happening with Schrödinger's cat. I do understand Schrödinger's cat today, by the way. I understand that now. But then, that was my understanding of it. If you liked this story, consider sharing it with somebody you love or you think might love this. I'm going to do this as fast as possible because I'm running out of time. If you like what you heard and you want to support it materialistically, you can go to ko-fi.com/retrospect station, coffee.com/retrospect station, and consider helping me cope. If you want to follow the show on Instagram or TikTok, it's at Retrospect Station. And if you want to follow me on Instagram or TikTok, it is at AstroAlex34. That's going to be it for this episode. The lesson is don't ride the Plesiosaur. Just don't. Don't do it. Why do you need to? You don't need to. Love you. Smooches. Bye.
A special thanks to the Mississauga Library Makerspace of Hazel McCallion Library. Without their resources, this show would not be possible.